All right, we can call this meeting to order at 5:17. Did anybody want to make any changes to this agenda? Were you able to add the email from Pam to this? I haven't read this yet.
No, I forgot.
We can just do that later in the meetings. In the touring community centers section for the later meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. All right, there's no changes to this agenda. We can move on to the feasibility survey discussion. More breakdown report, I guess. Well, Mark Lee's not here, but I do, Brian.
Yeah, I believe the next step was for Mark Lee to kind of give us an update on where he was on the report. I don't know if anybody's talked.
The only contact I've had with Mark in discussions, and we have texted or emailed back and forth, is that he and I were trying to get together with the gentleman who was behind the Alphon Center in Waterville. And that he was trying to get that set up because they just had their big, you may be coming in traffic. They just had their big fundraising project, and he happened to see him at that, and they discussed talking with us and sharing their experience. How they put municipal Boys and Girls Club and the Y all together.
Okay. Then we really don't need to do anything on number 3. Is that accurate?
I would say, I don't believe there was any other updates that we were going to.
Back to it if March comes.
Yeah.
Shows up.
Hold on, I had a previous meeting run a little long and will be 5 minutes late.
There you go.
It's very unlike him not to tell us, so
Yeah.
he's good at that.
So maybe we can circle back around
Yeah.
to the touring and Pam's.
Yeah, let's move on to that. Pam, if you want to give any updates on the touring and also the future meeting coming up.
Well, I did not do anything with Waterville because I was waiting to talk to the gentleman and he had, but I did send Dwayne an email saying, is there another time we can get together? We had discussed doing it during the daytime possibly, I believe, that's what, for Wiscasset. And Dwayne had kind of said to me, throw out some dates that work for your committee and I'll be happy to try to make them work. If they're in the
Oh, so he
weekday.
did respond to the email,
Yeah.
just not reply all. Is that how it worked? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we want to try to pick some dates, either before or after school gets out or something that we can make that, hello.
Hey, Mark.
Doesn't
5 years good for you?
I got your email, so thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
excellent, thank you. Have material to review with everyone, we'll get to that point in the agenda, so.
Yeah, we'll just finish up number 5 and we'll move back to 3.
So do you want to look for next week or the week after? Last day of school is the 14th? 5th, pardon?
13.
13th, okay. Who is interested in going to Wiscasset? Definitely. Everybody's,
I've been there, but I'll go.
I would go or
Yeah.
look at the numbers that you,
do you want me to try to do a Zoom with Dwayne to just kind of talk to him? Does that make more sense in time? And I know Waterville's probably the bigger one, which Mark will answer in a couple minutes. What would you like?
I'm not able to do anything the next 2 weeks, but then I could definitely join in on something after that.
yeah, I could do a Zoom. I am busy every day till probably Tuesday or Wednesday of next week.
All right, well, why don't I initiate it with Dwayne again and see if there's a time? Do we feel like we need to go up there? Do you feel, most of you feel like you're familiar with it enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar. I've seen the lobby, I've seen the pool, I've seen the locker rooms, I've seen the gym. I don't know what else there is, if there is, but
The kitchen, there's a kitchen area.
I've seen the concessions. Is that connected to the concession window? Yeah, so I've definitely seen that.
Okay.
And the offices the only offices they have are behind the
Behind the counter,
secretary
and there
desk,
are
right?
two, I believe, and
Yep.
then a meeting room.
Which is, it's not a huge place, but
No,
it seems to do really well. So it'd still be cool to talk to them.
would you like me to ask him for some budget information? Is that probably more realistic to kind of get our hands around that since we're familiar? with
I'd say
the
whatever he's willing to
facility?
share, then
Okay.
absolutely, and that could
Okay.
possibly save
All
us
right.
some time. Since we've all kind of been there.
I can do that.
Any background on how they got to where they're at? Would be really helpful. And if it's anything the third week of June or on, I can see if I can make it work,
Okay.
but just not the first two,
Oh.
next 2 weeks.
And I'm in the same boat.
My only issue is that Kelly in my office is gone the week of the 17th and the 24th, so the likelihood of me being able to get out of the office for an afternoon is questionable, so, okay. And I guess, Mark, do you want to kind of bring them
Sure. Up to speed with the water bill tour. So,
situation?
yeah, so the CEO, Ken Walsh, has suggested he'd be available to provide not only an understanding of what programs they have and the facilities that they have, but also how they fund the operations of the center as well. And they have a fairly robust set of facilities and programs. They've in similar to what you just discussed with Wisconsin, they have the pool, they have two pools, one recreation, one competition. They have a three court gym with a elevated track around it. They have a series of fitness studios, both for youth and adults. They have a activity zone or play zone that they rent out often for birthdays, with climbing walls, and they're setting up a whole new ninja course I was informed of, so that's big right now. They also have a whole nutrition program where they've got a kitchen that they use as a teaching kitchen as well, and some outdoor garden beds and a little geodesic dome that they grow things in. And then they have a childcare component, and in addition to that, they have a presence from Maine General with a small opportunity for an exam room and a practitioner to be in there a few days a week. So that's kind of like I said, probably as large as you'll grow a type of community center like this, but it'll give you a real interesting view into how they arrange their pieces, how they fund it, what parts are they able to get rental income from, and what areas really are the challenge in terms of operational funding, and how they fundraise for that. They just had their annual fundraising last week, so. And so I know, Pam, you suggested that after the 17th, that's a lighter, I'm probably this week is a little more full, but Thursday's not bad, or next week, I can be made available on several days as well. So I don't know what the interest is in getting there in the next 2 weeks, or certainly we can entertain any time after that.
I think it sounds like for water bill after that is more appropriate because school will be out. And I know for Allison, she's not available for the next 2 weeks, so why don't we try to see if we can get a date those last 2
Sure.
weeks, and I'll just make arrangements for the office to be covered.
Okay. Is mornings or afternoons, or what works best for folks?
I'm flexible, so. Depends on the day.
Okay,
I can give me some options and I'll see what I can make work.
All right, sounds good. So I'll include a larger group on the
Date discussion.
dates, yeah, with that, and so you'll all be included in that.
Thank you.
All right.
Steve, before we circle back, did we want to touch on the email Pam sent?
Yeah, absolutely. Pam. The meeting that you recommended we all go to, or at least a couple of us go to.
A comprehensive.
Oh. What is the day? Forgive me, and I forwarded it to you.
Yeah.
I was away. What's the date of, it's in?
June 18th.
June 18th.
Yes.
You guys remember Joe Feely, who sometimes attends meetings with us. Joe is our person who is part of the comprehensive plan implementation committee that kind of watches what we're doing and keeps them up to speed. And they're having a meeting on June 18th. Mark, I'm thinking it's 6:30.
At the latest, yeah,
I thought it was 4:30.
Is it? It may be, and I apologize for that. Sorry, guys, it's my
That'd
first
be
day
four-
back and
that'd
I
be
am
4 o'clock.
not on the calendar yet.
June 18th, 4:30 to 6. That's what I had.
so the purpose of that is they're basically in the process of writing a new zoning code for the town. And they're trying to do outreach, they've got the second draft, they're inviting all different town committees to come and hear some information about it, so help generate input, comments, questions. So that's the input. There may be things as you read it that you think apply to the community center committee that you might like or not like, or want to give some input.
Was the link to the draft in that email?
I think so, yeah.
I thought so, yeah.
To the extent that building was gonna be built someplace in like the center of town, so to speak, or the core of Main Street, up to top of Vermont, you would have to comply with the building requirements that are in the new zoning code and stuff, which mostly affect how the building would look and things. I don't think it would be particularly open.
All right, thank you. I guess that does it for the community centers. Let's circle back if Mark is ready, to number 3.
Yeah, Mark, is there a opportunity to put a PDF in?
If you log into the meeting.
I've got a US, or I can log in.
Oh, yeah, you want to, well, because it messes up the recording.
Okay.
I find it.
Sounds good. Very good.
If
Let's
you log in,
see
I'll
if I
make
can
sure you screen.
log in here.
There was a link set up. Oh, I think I only sent it to Allison and Leslie.
Oh.
If you go to the Topsham Maine Community Center page, the link is there.
Okay, great.
Hi, it's Leslie. Are we being asked to go to the June 18th meeting?
You're being made aware of it if you wanted to go and give input, but most of it, Mark, if I'm not corrected, most of it is like, standards for building in a certain area. Mark, am I right? This portion
Some
of
of
it?
it, but it's also uses that you can do in certain areas. And things.
Right.
It would probably be good for a couple of people from the community to come in here if they think things are relevant to it.
Okay.
Is anybody able to attend on that day?
I was thinking we could send an email around maybe that week, well, the week before, to try to get 1 or 2 to go. I'll be around, so I can likely go.
Mark, you just want to make sure your volume goes down.
Right.
I get it off now, so hopefully,
Okay.
you know, trigger that.
I think I just sent you an invitation.
Okay, great. It seems like you two are busy anyway, but it's pretty open after that time. When are you busy till?
Till the end of next week.
And you should be able to share.
Great.
Okay.
So I could go. To the meeting.
Draw straw.
Yeah, I could go.
Technology is also not right.
So we didn't say hi to Allison or Leslie, though. We probably should have done that. Hi, Allison.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you.
Yeah.
All right, great. So I think everyone, yeah, there we go. It's right up there. So I know everyone can now see it. So what I suggested, we're still in the process of compiling the full report, but what I thought we would do is workshop the material to present to the town council. And so the idea of going through the content areas, Mark, I think you suggested the presentation itself should be about 10, 15 minutes or what,
Yeah.
somewhere in that ballpark. And so just want to look through this with all of you to understand, are we getting the relevant information that we should be presenting to them? And then what's missing, and so that we can tune that up and continue with the primary, one of the primary aspects of this entire committee meeting is to answer that question, what is it that the citizens of Topsham are looking for in a community center? So the first is just an overview to allow them to understand what the process was for this committee, and as we've gone through the last several months. So it began with looking at existing programs and facilities and understanding what you're currently doing and using for facilities, and that largely is through developed with information through the Pam and the recreation department. So that's going to be the first piece that we'll look at, and just again, it's more so that they can understand how comprehensive current programs are. Some of them may or may not be familiar with everything that goes on in the community and the different facilities that you are using, and the cooperation that's required in order to use those, and that those cooperation agreements are built on some instances goodwill, and you want to continue to foster that. And then the second piece of this is really digs into that aspect that we all went through to develop focus groups to expand the pool of stakeholders to understand what we would put out for questions. So there was really a lot of information gathered. There were 6 of them. And Brian and Ellie certainly helped us facilitate from those conversations into this notion of the townwide survey, and maybe we call that townwide survey number 2 or something, so that people understand this is the follow-up. But prior to that, we also developed a list of facility amenities and probable cost, and that I think is one of the fundamental differences between the previous survey and this survey, this understanding of if there are cost implications considered, does it sort of impact what people's desire is for a community center. And so that's, again, just a quick overview of the process. How are people feeling about that as a first step, just to go through with the town council? Feel good?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I would say,
Yeah.
just while I'm thinking of it,
Yeah.
is the last one, we should call it the same thing that we called the survey, which I have to go back and look at it, but we had a specific name.
Name for it.
Yeah.
Very good. Yes. I'm gonna go in and out of this. This is a draft, so.
Feasibility survey, it's on the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said.
I will make notes as we go along. And so the next 3 slides are a little small, and I'll figure out how to maybe try to build them a little larger, but the whole point is we looked at not only the facilities that you're using, whether they're indoor or outdoor facilities, the spaces or smaller subset of spaces within those facilities, what programs you're doing in those, what seasons that they're doing, and then the targeted use groups of that. And so that's a lot of comprehensive data that was actually really helpful to understand the range and breadth of what programs are being offered. And so here we had everything from Bowdoin College, the pool, to Forsyth Rec area and the various fields that are there, to the head of the Tide Park, the lot, even this ski and snowboarding in Auburn at Lost Valley, the high school and primarily the gyms, but also the outdoor turf fields, and play fields, the middle school with the theater and the band room, gym and baseball field, the library, even the transfer station, and elementary schools, the William Cone School, and Woodside Elementary School. So that listing provides, I think, a really great overview again of everything that is going on in the community. Pause for a minute.
Is this, Mark, gonna be the report, the PowerPoint?
No, this is a summary just for their information.
So maybe, because I think the full list is good, but I'm thinking when we put out the agenda, we'll have the report with the agenda, so
Yeah.
we'll be able to have a copy to read in advance of things, and that's what the public. But maybe the slides are just some highlights. Some of the facilities used are, something like.
Okay.
Not just different buildings.
And maybe sort of some facts and figures in terms of number of programs, number of people, or what type of information do you think will make an impression on them?
I think the biggest thing to focus on are the things that maybe we're at most risk of losing the facility, or the
Okay.
ones that the building would replace. Because we're probably not gonna build a ski area, so we're gonna use Lost Valley no matter what things, but the ones that might be addressed by a community center, I guess. But that's just my thoughts.
I think what you want to do if you suggest that it currently is working, then people would say, well, why are we funding a community center? But I think that's the area where there's a value judgment.
I can tell you that
Yeah.
we're already, in the last 6 months have been having to stand up and fight to hold on to the spaces that we have, especially in Williams Cone School, because the adult ed program, and some of you remember Mr. Lampert, who was here for one of our groups, have gotten kicked out of the middle school. My understanding is there's some concerns of staffing and conflicts, that type of thing, but nonetheless, they're trying to get their programs in Williams Cone, which affects what we offer and use it for. And so I really had to stand up, and I'm fortunate that the principal at Williams Cone this is our elementary school, is for our kids, first off. But we're starting to feel the pressure of outside. Other
Yeah.
parts within the school district that are trying to take space.
So, competition with school programs and adult ed, I think,
Yeah.
are safe and.
Yep.
And that you're really, guests, and that it could go away at, I guess, if they need it, then they're the priority.
Right, I think there are some conflicts going on between themselves program. We're not part of that, so we're fortunate for that, but it is happening.
Also probably explain, even though it might be working, it doesn't mean that it's working properly.
That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah.
And it probably comes up in a different place in the presentation, but there's certainly things that came up in the focus group that there just aren't spaces for. The idea that the community center be kind of a social space, there really isn't a social place. Come and hang
At
out.
the school. And janitorial coverage is also an issue on weeknights where Williams Cone's janitor goes home at 8 o'clock. So there's no extensive, like we used to have an adult volleyball that went there until 9 o'clock. And we've had to rearrange that in the schedule because of the limitations of staffing. So those are all points you can put in as well.
Playroom that Mark had mentioned, that water bill. I mean, that would do so well. The only place around is in Brunswick. So.
Wrong this one.
And that's not even really.
So primarily recreation and not social spaces, I think it's.
Right.
What is out there. Good. Other thoughts?
I think all of that is addressing the younger generation as well. Right?
The just take that a little bit further, so that when you say that it's addressing the proposed new spaces are addressing younger, or no, these
No,
spaces
the-
are
the
focused
existing.
primarily on
Yeah,
youth
Yeah.
programs, so there's probably, the majority of them are all youth programs, I would, you're right.
for the most part,
Yeah.
you know.
Sundays are really the only day that we have space in the high school, and even that is sometimes
Yeah.
sparing compared to other events that go on there.
Yeah. All right. So then the next part was the development of the 6 focus groups, the diversity of stakeholders that were there, and then the range of topics around the community. And we had pages and pages of responses to that. As you recall, we did the anonymous transcripts for that. And do we have, I'm trying to think, the facilitators that were part of that, do we have a summarized document of what that, I know we spent a few committee meetings talking about the outcomes of those. Do we have anything that sort of condenses the outcome of those facility, or those focus groups that we want to include here?
We could go through the otter notes and of each one and kind of give a summation, don't you?
Yeah, I thought we kind of had a preliminary one.
Yep. It had topics that came out.
Together.
Right, no, it came from the
Script
trade,
service.
the
Yeah,
script.
transcripts.
We have the transcript or service that rolled out common themes and stuff like that.
We
Is-
could do it by each of the 6 and what the particular topics in each one were.
Clearly being prepared to summarize the focus groups with this, I think that.
Do you think you need to call out how the focus groups were, how we came up with those people? Or do you think,
Yeah, I think, I think what you want to do is express how broad the group, the community that's represented in those. So we talked a lot about making sure that we had folks that were in youth programs, that we had seniors, that we had folks from the arts community. So we had that broad range, and I think and again, I'm trying to think of where we have specific information about the constituency of those, and is there something that that we had as a committee, or that you have as a committee document that describes that?
so as far as the participants, I have. So the Excel spreadsheet, I took the listing of the answers, so basically, if they were in 18 to 25 or whatever, so I can compile that and say, we had X number of people in this age group, we had X number of people involved in this program. So I can summarize it from the tracking sheet that I kept from enrolling people in focus groups.
And that does demographics such as like you're suggesting, does it have sort of the area of interest that they?
If they selected it, so
Okay.
when when they submitted the form that said they wanted to participate in the focus group, they had to provide their email address, they had to select the group that they fell in, were they a resident of Topsham, did they have school-age children, and which of these groups did you feel you were most interested in discussing? And we listed off a wide variety of them, so, and they selected as many or as little as they wanted.
Excellent. Is it, Mark, again, thinking about how much we compiled just for this presentation, do we have enough time to go through what each of the different groups, we had 6 of them, or should we summarize them all as the focus group comments? Or
I think it makes more sense to summarize it as one
One.
collection.
Okay, all right.
Because I don't think there was so much differences between each night that it's.
I think that is,
One, they found this, or.
that's an important thing, if there's a lot of commonality between the groups, that says something. That way you don't want to highlight, you don't want to create arbitrary differences.
The only group that I'm thinking that was significantly different was the group, the facility, the facilities group
So
that
that's
was
the-
primarily made of people who ran programs or did things already.
but we're not necessarily Topsham residents.
Yeah, there was one particular group of the 6.
Uh, so yeah, if somebody can send me that, I don't know, if I already have access to that spreadsheet, I don't think so.
No, I just made a tracking sheet
Alright.
for myself, so I will pull that data and send it
Perfect.
over to you.
Perfect, good. Good, yeah, and again, I think the message here is that it was not a small slice of the community, that you really reached out to understand what the interests were of a very broad spectrum. And then we get into the actual survey itself. And so some of this is the material that Brian and his folks developed, but I think it's important that just the nuts and bolts of it, that the goal was to assess the interest in developing a community setting in the town of Topsham and the types of facilities that it should be considered. It was administered between March 8th and May 1st. It was available online as well as a paper version, and 914 residents responded to the survey. I think all those facts still remain accurate. I'll look at you, Brian, listen.
Deactivated the survey once I pulled them.
Very good. Does that feel, again, relevant and on topic, Mark?
Yes.
For what they're gonna be interested? I know that the whole conversation too is it needed to be statistically relevant or representative, and I think, Brian, you said many times that 914 is enough to get you an accurate representation.
We won't delve too much into
Right.
things because there's some, it's like, yeah, one thing we don't know exactly who they are because we purposely didn't ask them drafts. So, but you can say, yes, it is. I mean, that amounts to what? Cameras, I think I'm.
What's
Yeah, a
the
little under 10%.
under? Okay, right.
You talk to a sizable percentage of the population.
More than that if they're registered voters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we don't know, but. Good, and then.
And again, it's like, the one thing I might stress there, again. Is that you say it's like, yes, we had paper versions, we had online, but it's all the effort you went through to make sure people had access to it.
Yeah.
We had it at our place, we had it here, we had it there.
It was on the website, it was on Facebook, it was sent out through the Parks and Recreation listserv as well as
It
the.
was, there was a, the voting booths, there was a day.
Did it at the polls,
Easter egg.
the Easter egg hunt, it was at the town office desk, or at the tax collector's desk during tax season.
Yeah, let's just make you put it, it was accessible to everyone.
Great.
And
And it
then someone
was
mentioned it.
prior.
The crier that gets mailed to everyone's home and had information on the town ad.
Excellent. All right. Very good, and so. The first question was, in general, would you support the town building a multipurpose community center? I think that's an important initial just gut question that without any other background, what are people's responses? And 70% were in favor of it. So I think that and 20% of those, it depends. So only 7% were no. So that speaks, I think, pretty strongly about that. And then we get into the aspects of what would be included in it and the interest by the community in those particular amenities. And this is, again, a hard table to make heads and tails of just when you're looking at it. But one of the things, and Brian, defer to your expertise. One of the things that I try to do is look at, okay, well, of the responses, we were just going to look at the number who responded of interest in the particular items. So 500 and something, we can actually put the, I suppose, the value for it on here. So we could represent what people expressed an interest in. So and do it in order of declining interest.
And so I guess the question is, do you want to say, hey, here's a dividing line. That, these things, majorities seem to want, these things seem to be a little less important.
Yeah, is this the right time for that yet, or is it sort of, this provides the data and at some point, you know, a budget figure will probably adjust to say, here's what is
Right. And
reasonable to
then
go forward.
the other thing that I think, yes, you actually brought up, which is, it depends, and it's like, a very large majority want a pool or want a kitchen of some variety, so that is somehow. I mean, that might be an important fact. I mean, it's like, yes, there's some discussion on what type of pool we want, but pretty much everyone wants a pool.
Mhm.
So that, you know, you could do as a separate thing, so, you know, I think those are the only two that really were, you gave them kind of two options.
Yeah, well,
Everything else is pretty much just an option.
yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to think what our N was at the responses for this. Let me go back to the slide, I think. Number of people that responded to this, 768. And so,
And there might be a little, so you can't just necessarily say, well, maybe it's 570 in the kitchen, there could be. It's not one vote, but it's easy enough to go.
oh, right. Yeah, no, I think they're exclusive, right? The options, I mean, they,
Technically, they could respond, but they chose to do so.
right.
I don't imagine there's much overlap, but I mean, it's easy enough to go to the data plug
Uh-huh.
and say, well, it's like, here it is. Yes, there's large majorities favor this, it's, yeah, and but as an aside, it's like. A vast majority want some type of kitchen. Or some type of, like I said, I can't imagine the people who said, well, if you're not gonna give me a commercial grade kitchen, I don't want a small to be. And same thing, well,
If I understand, so in some.
that just might be a way to, as a separate slide, say, oh, but it's like, these are just two things. These are two types of facilities where we really gave them two options, whereas most of the other time we only gave them one option.
Mhm.
To say, here it is, it's like here broken down, but if you actually look at the people, 1% of people want some type of kitchen, 1% of people want some type of pool. And just kind of
So,
highlight that as in essence, almost a separate slide, or you could sneak it into the bar graph there too.
the. Slide it back here in a minute, but. So the recreation pool was 48% of the people responded in interest in a recreation pool. So I'm just gonna put, like, so when you say majority,
Right, which like not individual, that's the thing, it's like, well, a majority don't want a commercial grade kitchen, but a majority would want a commercial grade kitchen. It's like when you combine, a majority want a kitchen of some type.
right, correct.
And that's just, I mean, that's just because those two things were unique in the fact that we gave them two levels of choice, whereas most, for everything else we didn't.
I think. So you can have both the competition and the recreation pool, but you're thinking that some people may have seen it as either and not.
Right, but see,
and?
what you could do is you could actually go through, actually. look at
Okay.
data and say, look at this, and
Okay,
say,
all right.
hey, you know, it's like, how many people said I want a
Yeah.
pool? How many people said I want this, right?
Yeah, what feels, what does committee feel like they want to use with this information? Because I think what we're gonna do is show it here before the cost implication, then we're gonna show the same
Yeah.
information after the cost implication.
I think Leslie has a question.
Hi. Yes, I just want it to be really clear about the pool. I don't want to miss what people are saying if in fact almost 600 people want a pool. I just don't understand the statistic piece of it enough to know if the 365 and the 204, no, and the 236 people collectively want a pool. And I just want that to be clear as we share the information. Does that make sense?
Could we say something like, we know that somewhere between 365 and 601 people would like a pool?
No, actually, you could actually go look at the data and add them up. It's like, so there's probably some sort of slight overlap that you need to get. But it's easy enough just to start with the data and go, how many people said pool, how many people said pool, and what's the overlap?
Right,
And you can get to an action number.
okay.
What if you had a separate slide for the, I don't know, call it complex question or something?
Like the
And you had a
pool and
pool
the
and
kitchen.
the kitchen, and you had a bar that showed the total that combined for some type of pool
Yeah.
kitchen. And then the lower line is the commercial kitchen and the competition pool.
But I kind of like this slide as it is for a preliminary kind of look at it without that line there. This is just what people said. And then maybe there's like an asterisk next to the 2 pools and the 2 kitchens, and then you go to the next page and it says, okay, these were the kind of complex question because. And we give the actual raw data for those 2 categories. And it just kind of puts it into a little better perspective.
Yeah, I just don't want it, it's like to get lost in the, oh, it's like, okay, only this, if a majority don't want to pull them. Or a majority don't want to pull, but that's not true. It's like there's just some discussion about what type of pool.
Right. Are there, I don't think there are any other. Like,
No, I think the kitchen and that one are the 2.
we'll do a breakout of those on, probably on both of them. Tonight, here's that. So, great. And then we go based on the, this expected increase in property taxes. So there's a piece of data missing here, which is what the property tax increase for each of those items is. But based on the expected increase for a typical home, does your opinion change? And I think just again, seeing the aggregate information is 53%, given the fact that their taxes would increase, that would still support it. Thoughts on this?
Oh, and actually it's more than that, because it's like, say they won't, it's like, yeah, I told you exactly what I want, fine, you can charge for it. 25, okay, maybe I'll sub out the recreation pool for the competition pool and save us something.
Yep.
So
You're right.
so it's a large, it's like, it's in essence, what you're saying is, you haven't really dropped the number of people that support it, you may have changed exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, you're right. There are only 11 that said no.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that's oddly enough, that's interesting in itself, that, all right, now that you understand the financial implications of this. So now understand the financial implications, do you still want it on community center?
And I think the 2 yeses, 53% and 29% is huge.
Yeah, right.
Again, it pretty much leaves you the same thing between, yes, I want a community center and it depends. So you're mirroring what you said up above.
Close to that 70% mark with, or it's even higher than that, but it only slides.
Yeah.
Good. Is it any modification or explanation more than that needed on this one? Or we're all
I mean,
coming
I guess, with the council, I mean, is there gonna question, well, what do you mean by increased property taxes? Do you need to let them know?
Yeah, probably need to add that.
That table that says, this is what this is what we gave them dollar amounts that for, and you'll probably have to. Imagine explain where those dollar amounts came from.
And they're all hypothetical.
Yeah,
Well, it's,
Well, you reasonable guesses as to what it might be.
except it's without any fundraising at all.
Yeah, I mean, and I, yeah, and again, but that's why we got to the question, I think we put the questions in that kind of frame of reference.
I have a question. The way that I'm reading it, maybe I'm misreading it, but the question is based on this expected increase in property taxes, does your opinion change? And down below it says yes. But then it says I'd still support. So it almost feels like it's the yeses should be no's. You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah, you can do that. It's like, yeah, you may want to, it's like, you get rid of the yeses and replace them. Just, I think it's like, I would just get rid of the yes column. Out of the chart, I think you could ask things.
Yeah.
And.
Yes, that would do it. Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Same thing on the note.
Catch, Leslie. Yeah, that's an excellent catch.
Thank you.
Just gonna put it right here right now, so yeah, I'll remember it.
She can see it better this.
Totally.
Absolutely. Exactly. Sorry.
It's
Sorry about
true.
that. Great.
I believe that a lot of the select board people will review all of this prior to seeing it too. So that level of detail is important, I think.
Absolutely. And so now it shows the numbers now considering the tax impact to that or the cost. And so 742 here, but I'm gonna go through now, and what I didn't do is do the smaller, or do the chart like we did before, so I'll recreate that same chart that we did on the last, prior to the tax impact, for this one, so. So that'll be, again, a similar, we'll set it up, yep, and then,
And what you find is things just dropped a little bit.
yeah, exactly, and things dropped around, some slid a little bit in terms of preference, but there wasn't a significant difference in terms of the priorities. So,
And I think that's another thing that's an important concept to look, it's like, we didn't just ask them, hey, if you want to finish there, tell us what you want, it's like, we gave them reasonable expectations, what this might cost them.
Yeah.
And had them assess it at that level.
Yeah.
And this is what they said, so, say everyone wants it, maybe things shift around as to what it might include, but it doesn't take away from the initial conclusion everyone that the people want.
absolutely. Good. And then question 8 was around interest in helping to raise private funds to offset the cost. And
14%.
Pretty decent.
Hey, that's more of a percent than, we got a response for population.
Right.
So that's, and we, again, I don't remember how many 700, so what's 14% of 700, it's
Still about
80 people or so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more than just Lynn.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is anonymous, right?
No, actually, they gave.
Oh, they have one now?
You have their, sorry, you gotta collect their numbers.
Great, well, there we go.
So I think that was the actual purpose of the question. To just give you a number that actually gives you a potential pool of people that could actually help you.
Wow, there's a lot of potential in that 29% too,
True, that's right.
because if you don't know what type of fundraising you're gonna be doing, then
Right.
that makes a big difference, I think.
And I think if the no's knew how they could participate and offset the cost of their taxes, I think the no number would go down as well.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
And so the last one is, and for us to sort of, what do we want to highlight now as conclusions and recommendations? And is that an appropriate slide to have at the end of this? Is that the charge of the group, and is the appropriate time to do that?
I think so, because I think they're looking for advice on whether they should move forward or not to the next step. So if this group can't make a recommendation, then top one's never gonna
So, I think what I think my takeaway, and again, all of you can please participate in what you think is, but there is, support. I don't know if we want to characterize the level of support, but there is support for, from, or I'll just say for a town of Topsham Community Center. As identified or as indicated through, I'll just put this process, because it was more than simply just the survey. I think there was I think the focus groups were an important part of that too.
You may want to put that in parentheses, focus group and surveys.
I think that some of maybe the most valuable work of the second survey is to point out that support maintained even after costs were taken into account. Then it might also be, and I don't know what the line is, but maybe we should come back to that line and say, these are the features that gather the most support, so that as we go forward to, if we do to the design phase, we know, well, we're not gonna have the maker's room or something, because that only had 15%, or because as we try to focus in on what exactly are we looking for in a building, I think it's important to say, here's the results of our survey, or these things have broad public support, this maybe isn't enough to do it this phase. You know, maybe it's got some pool, but it doesn't have the competition pool.
Here's the thing, it's like, yes, it's like, there's support for a pool, type to be determined. There's support for a kitchen, largely more, a small kitchen, but some support for large.
To support the meeting space.
Sure,
We
right.
actually be able to get
So-
crafty.
We put the top list of desired amenities include, and we can figure out where that line wants to be drawn. Maybe it's the top 6, or I don't know, if it's a number, or if it's sort of, we pick a threshold of anything that was 50% or more.
Is there a point where it just kind of drops off?
Well, yeah, I'll go back to the, before, again, this was before the classification, and I will expand to a full screen, so it's still hard.
The walking track was number 1.
Let me do this.
Yeah, I don't think, when you do this part of the report, I think you want to use the one with the cost implication.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for the list on the conclusions?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, it's not gonna work, I don't think, but.
Yeah, let's see. And again, that's why it's probably an important idea to it's like, in essence, combined kitchens, there's support for a kitchen. Probably more likely a small kitchen, but, there's support for a pool, more likely a recreational, but. But you can see where it's like, it kind of runs it, right about the maker space. It's like, that's where you kind of got, it's like you kind of have a gradual and kind of drops along.
Yeah, if you again think of the recreation pools at about 50%. That gives you kind of where that drop off occurred here with bigger space and combination pool, kitchen.
I mean, largely they're saying they want it all. It's like, they can be determined based upon what type of pool, what type of kitchen. Or how much money.
I have a question, or I guess maybe more of a comment. I think I'm taking a little bit more, a different view on conclusions and recommendations when I think about the big process. So for conclusions, I would suggest that we stick to numbers where we say 70% said this, and go through a little bit with a summary of numbers before we say that there is support for a community center. And then the next conclusion, paragraph, I would say, I would speak to how what people identified impact the communities that we've been hoping to support, the multi-generational community and social connections. So I would recommend that would be our second paragraph. And then the recommendations would be the next steps of what we're taking. And that, yes, we can decide and we should vote if we collectively want to say that is the direction that we recommend that the select board consider moving forward on building a community, something like that. So I'm trying to stay a little bit more number focused and focused on what our what our efforts have been toward. So I'll throw that out there.
So quantify these statements to the extent. So what was the support that was identified? And it's a little nuanced, right? Because we said some of them are that kind of depends aspect of it. So we go to that first. It
And
depends.
I'll go back to Mark's comment, because Mark, you said something like, well, of course, we would be expected to make recommendations. Like, what do you think of this, a slightly different avenue of conclusions and recommendations?
No, I think yours is less assailable. So you're laying out, here's the numbers, the basic, you're kind of explaining it better, I guess. So you're like, here's the numbers, and then you're still making conclusions at the end, but you're just making it a 2-step process.
We are making conclusions which are X% supported,
Right.
X% supported given the cost. Our recommendation is this,
Yeah.
based upon that piece of information I just gave you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I
Right.
think from what people recommended, those things will support the young, the middle-aged, and families and elderly and all of that. So I think that's an important fact as well. If that is true, we'd have to look at what it is that, the walking track, of course, is for all ages, for example.
I think if we could go back and kind of tie in our conclusion and recommendations with kind of like with the statement or our what do you call this, mission statement, thank you, of our committee, that really would sum it up very well too, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's what I was looking at as well.
Yeah. See, Leslie, your brain's working.
Yeah, I'm trying.
So first is sort of that conclusion, which is restating the data, but just a few of the points. Second one is this notion of community impact, which I think is that point that ties to the whole mission, right? And then the third one is the actual recommendations. And so what are those recommendations?
That the town move forward in identifying parcels. That the town move forward in identifying, what are the things you need to increase?
I think you gotta back it up a little more. First,
we have to ask-
is the committee recommending a community center be built, or is it
Yes.
sufficient to have programs in existing facilities like we've been doing?
Okay.
Again, like kind of to what Leslie was just saying, and Lynn, I think the question is the mission statement, and the answer is yes.
Yeah,
The mission of the community center committee is to understand the desires and needs of the Topsham community, to identify accessible, affordable, sustainable recreational solutions that will serve multi-generational. The answer is yes, the community feels we need something. Yes, we should look to build something. Yes, we want it to encompass multi-generational things. And these would be our recommended starting points.
So you can essentially just say the mission statement,
Yes.
Yeah.
this is why, and then say, this is why we agree with. This is how we got there, yeah,
Yes.
with
Yeah.
the data that we all put together.
right,
so
back it up, yeah.
that's
And
it.
maybe to go back to Mark or the rest of the team to say, what are the next steps? So we've said that this is our mission statement for this portion of what we're working on. Is the next step building? You know, like maybe the next mini step is going to be to assess the community centers in the community, and you know, like who knows? I don't know how many steps it's going to be.
Mark, jump in if I'm wrong, but I
Yeah.
think from our earlier discussions, we had said, next step is probably first, we need to identify if we have some available piece of land. And then it's to have you guys, based on the features that look like they're viable, come up with a building, kind of second part of the needs assessment that we didn't pay for yet.
Right. Yeah, there are two pieces. So the question is whether or not the idea is to move forward with the idea that the town would develop a building or facility. And if that's the case, then you go to this aspect of, okay, well, we need to look at where it would be located and what it would contain, what is the scope of this, how big is it, what different programs and spaces does it have in it? Who would manage it? And then there's a whole operational aspect too of that. And so in addition to what you'd hire an architect for, then it's a conversation about how are we going to staff and maintain and operate this.
I
So,
almost feel like there's almost one more slide after conclusion recommendations that just does a quick highlight over what we've done, what our thoughts are on next steps. You know, the where, the viewing other community centers, reviewing how their programs are working.
So it's
Again, these are not our decisions to make, but these are our suggestions, and this is the work we've done to kind of.
why do we think these are our next steps?
What?
so,
Mark, what you were just saying is really step by step. I think that's great to inform the select board. This is
Operation, I think next steps, because there's two ways you could staff it. One is you hire town employees. Another way, I think, would be investigating different local groups we could partner with.
Partnerships.
Like, for instance, the library has a teen librarian. So maybe it's we work with the library, and the library, we supply the space, but maybe the library is actually the one that does the programming for the teen center. Or we work with Stacy and People Plus to some of our elder programming in our building. So a step might be investigating partnerships to provide programming to reduce the amount of town staff.
That's a big reason why I'm interested in water bill. because it's run by the Y. But I believe, well, Alpine obviously helped a lot with that.
Yeah. But it's a different model, and I mean, but it still draws on community resources to support it, and it still provides the same types of social amenities and recreation amenities that the town community center would provide as well.
Right.
And I think, like Mark said with the library, this fall, we're beginning to partner with Six Rivers on their space in the daytime for programming, and Izzy and I are getting together in 2 weeks to just start talking about the type of things we could go do in the daytime for senior citizens, like we've talked about that portion, and that may be another step to this as well, partnering.
Sometimes the committee is saying, it's like, here's a bunch of steps. I think we should go to the next step and move forward.
Right.
There's almost like two parallel phases. One's the a building phase, which would first get investigate whether we have a site, and then what the building would look like. The second is the operational part, other groups that would partner with us to run it.
But so part of our, yes, we want to do those things, or we would recommend doing those.
Yes.
But assuming we did, Lynn did, if we did fundraising. Wouldn't it be in the best interest of the town for not necessarily the park and rec department, but to be run by the town, so we're able to recover costs and give it back to taxpayers?
Maybe, yeah, I guess to be determined. Because even these groups, let's say the library does the team program, they're gonna want us to contribute to the library for that. Or if People Plus is providing, they're gonna want us to help contribute to their mission, so it's not like it's gonna be free if we get a program.
But if there was a surplus and we hired out another company, they would probably, I would assume that they would eat up that
Right.
money themselves. The profit, if you will.
The library's kind of a special circumstance because we pay 85% of their budget, everything, so it kind of. We still get the benefit of it at the end.
So if the library actually made money at the end of the year, what would happen?
Right now, it stays in their fund to go to help support library services.
Because they don't have fundraising any.
But we could always work that out in the agreement, the surplus, here's what happens to them, piece it up for the library. We have, our current relationship with them is defined by a memorandum of understanding, so it could be revised to include the programs or something.
I mean,
They've been a reasonable group to work with.
again, as folks look at this, tell me if this captures what's being discussed here.
I'd also like to see the prior slides to compare the two. Because it's sequential.
I'll go right back to that. So this again is process to move forward, review, and this is something you're already looking at. How other community centers function, look into partnership opportunities, embark on feasibility study for a new facility, location and site and type of facility. Develop a model for how a new community center would operate, staffing, operations, and maintenance.
And then maybe this doesn't come until after we know the feasibility part of the building. But we probably want to set up a formal fundraising structure.
Yeah.
Which people aren't gonna donate until they get a sense it's actually gonna happen, what it's gonna look like.
Exactly.
But is the question, these are things that the select would have to vote on allowing you to do.
Right,
So it's like, our recommendation is, we think we should move forward. Here are the next things you guys gotta think.
and give us authority or not.
Yeah.
And they have to determine that the committee moves forward with it, right? Because the mission of the committee was what we're doing
So
right now.
this is an ad hoc committee, so it's given basically a charge and a term. The charge was for this most recent version of this committee to do the needs assessment. So now it would be looking for a new mission, it would be to continue with some of these other steps.
So is that part of the recommendations is to move to this or to continue committee's work at this feasibility study level?
And to do some of these or all of these tasks.
So you're almost asking permission.
Yeah, exactly.
If you just change that word process to recommend to move forward. process sounds like, oh gosh, it's a tedious process, but we recommend that we move forward.
Yes, I like that.
I like that too.
Oh,
Uh-oh,
fingers gone away.
Battery dead?
nope.
It's first technology.
I don't want to lose all that work we've done either.
Sure.
Usually it will cut.
Mark, I just want to say this document is excellent. It's very thorough and I think gonna be great. Thank you so much.
I think it'll be helpful for
Or just hoping everyone memorize that.
most of it.
Got that all in the minutes, right?
Microsoft's projects are.
And it's all.
Yeah, that's a good question.
There you go, we got to review the tape. Since you're so flexible.
Oh, that's a good
You can do
point.
that.
Go back.
Sorry, Sue, can we
Share.
share?
I think it looks like Zoom didn't like something.
Oh my God, I didn't take a picture of it today. I should know.
Does Mark need to elevate you again?
Probably have to go through that process. Let me get back to that part.
Yeah.
Get back today.
I did have a few questions just before I forget about the qualitative piece. I don't know if you guys are interested, but it might be nice to add a few verbatim quotes from the focus groups on some of the slides. Just to have some of the voices in there, and I think it's always interesting for audiences. That might be nice.
We did do that last time. It was very worthwhile. Leslie, right?
Yes.
We did have some comments in there.
Yeah, it was great.
That's a good idea. Thanks,
you,
Ally.
Yeah, and then on that qualitative methodology slide, just because the most common questions I get after a presentation are what did you ask in the discussion guide during the focus groups, if you just want to like list the topics. And then also also adding the recruitment methods for the focus groups, the way you did for the surveys.
Okay, we're gonna keep all that top of mind for a second. So, recommendations. Great.
And so that's what the charge would be, if we move forward, what we'd like is that the committee would do these things. So you're recommending that what they do is they change the mission of the committee? Is that what I remember?
In essence, yeah. Because they've accomplished this mission, so you're looking for a new one. Because otherwise Kim would say, I just joined this 2 weeks ago.
Maybe the committee recommends to move forward with the following.
Yes, maybe.
There were some pretty good comments in the surveys themselves too. I remember. The ones in, some people have some good things to say there too. Like, even if they should look back through those things.
I think you, Leslie, I think you wanted to go back and just look at this. Correct this slide.
Yes, just to make sure it's sequential with the conclusion and recommendations.
So I think at the last item here was the recommendations, but it was, I think we've now kind of pushed that to the next page, really.
So you can just put the mission statement there, saying the mission statement is, and then you just go to the
And
next
Mark,
slide
you
saying,
can get the mission statement. It's on the bottom of all of the
Perfect.
agendas.
and then you just say. And based upon that, that's what we recommend.
Excellent. All right, and now.
On the next- Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, Leslie.
On the next page, the very first line, it says to review how other community centers function. I would just say continue to review because there has been work done in that area. If the team agrees with that.
Great.
I did forward the St. John's document on to you guys, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just
Right.
sorry, guys. Vacation brain, I'm not, I know I got it, if I remember to share
All right, Ally, you have, lead me through, what, suggestions you have here?
So I think. there's a-
Yes, so on the focus group methodology slide near the beginning. I would just add a little bit more methodology in general. Maybe, I forget who the audience is you're presenting to. But, add your recruitment methods, add that you created a discussion guide and these were the topics. And maybe just an explanation of, why you did the focus groups first and then the survey.
In essence, take that slide that's below about the survey and create a methodology slide for the qualitative research.
Which is what Allison has the document.
So I have the discussion guide that we used that will present the questions that were asked of each focus group, more or less. So
Great.
they pulled us off track.
Yeah, so it's kind of the who. Yeah, who do we talk to? How do we manage to get to talk to them? What do we ask them?
And I would say, I don't know that we necessarily have a document for how we reached out to them, but it's all the same methods as the survey. The Facebook, the email lists, the posting in the
Prior and
the
December.
prior,
But not the egg hunt.
not the.
Egg hunt. The day of the egg hunt, Steve was going
Yeah,
around
exactly.
getting.
Well, I wrote that down. I got a couple, all right, yeah.
Put you in a bunny costume too.
Yes.
We tried really hard.
I've been to a rabbit hole before too, so that's another story. All right, Ally, you also suggested quotes in there and to kind of where do we want to put that qualitative information?
In between.
Yeah.
I think you would use them almost as page breaks.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Also, someone always asks how many total participants were in the focus groups.
I have that, because I'll have the breakdown of how many people responded yes, how many people participated, because there was a couple that said but didn't show up, and then the demographics that go along with it, and I have it under action items to get that over to you.
Okay, great. So,
Yeah, a lot of spam. Wow.
A lot of
Spam boxes.
I have an entire inbox of just responses from the focus groups, because it all went in my.
But also people that never received it.
and we primarily want those to focus on supporting ultimately the story that we're all telling. That there's strong support for a broad range, not simply youth recreation, if that's kind of a.
I'm not sure if Ally, this question might be for you. Is it appropriate to put quotes both for and not for the community center, or do we just keep it positive?
I mean, my research brain is, do all of them, but it's also really, I mean, you can also add quotes to some of these slides that support the numbers too. Which is nice.
I always say just to keep us objective, do the same percentage. So if roughly 70 or 80% of the people said yes, then we have 4 positive quotes for every 1 negative.
That's interesting.
But it's like, I mean, how many quotes did you get?
Well,
So many.
I was gonna say, if we looked at the information though, your sense is that most everyone that participated was. They may have had a particular agenda, but they were in support of some aspect of community recreation.
I would say that 100% of the people that attended the focus groups were in support of having something.
Yeah.
They all didn't know what it was like. I can only think of one gentleman who came in thinking that he was gonna say no, and then as he listened to everybody else around the room, he was
Yeah.
like, you know what?
First one.
That's right.
Which would be an interesting quote.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
We could find it.
If he-
So it's
exactly.
only 1,200 pages of transcripts.
Yeah, I have it. It's one of the 500 pages. of-
Yes.
Well, I mean, there are, it's like, because we got some, we got quotes from the survey as well.
Yeah.
And we asked, I think we did ask the no folks why they said no. you might be able to find something in there that says, no, you're just gonna raise my taxes $10 million and like 17.
Then maybe we mix in amongst the slides, positive ones, and we just have one slide, and you're right, they're only gonna come out of the survey really. Of the reasons why people said no, were of the people, the few people said no, but of the ones that did, these were reasons why.
All right, so there.
I don't think we need any no's, but that's just me. They already see the no's in his breakdown. They already saw that. I don't think. we
Yeah, I
need
think
to
if
highlight
you put it
their
in space right there, and that way you can mix and match some things from the focus groups and the survey, whatever. Anyway, the survey responses are probably not gonna be, how should we, as in depth as your focus group ones, they're probably, no, I don't want.
Well, we want this to be rather pithy. They're not, nobody's gonna sit here and read this on, this meeting. So they have to just be, kind of capture the essence of the comments that we received, not a document that, all right, good. So this is a great first pass. What I'll do is fine tune this and send it out to the group. If I can get the other components sent to me, I'll incorporate those into this draft. And then, Mark, we still probably have another round of meeting to review it prior to making a date for the town council presentation. Is that your opinion as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right, so,
Does someone want to be responsible for picking the quotes? Or do you want Mark to do? To be sure that,
I think it's great when someone wants to.
I would agree with you, you don't need to be dealing with that. I'm trying to find them here, this isn't great, it typically, it kind of just reviews. Doesn't actually quote.
no, you know what? Not in the honor, not in the group sessions, but the one where people actually filled it out, the survey out. There was space where they could write it. That's in the Excel spreadsheet that Brian provided. That's where I would grab the comments from.
In the written report, any reason you can't, as an appendix?
You
put all
can, the whole thing,
I think, because I think there's some members of the select board probably like to read them all.
Yeah.
And then,
absolutely.
Really?
yeah,
It's like people that go in the.
They'll think that they'll think we fabricate.
Well, I mean, that's all.
No, I'm joking.
that was not, just for the record, that is not why I said that.
Only joking.
I said that because some of them really like to investigate things all they can. So
Right.
I think they'd be
And
interested.
I do believe, Leslie helped me, the last time we did it, there were a couple of them who did ask to see what the responses were, so.
And people can choose to read it or not, if they want to read it, it's there.
Well, I presume there's a larger part that goes, here he goes, here's the summaries of all the focus groups, here's all the comments that came out of the survey. You know, if you want to read 800 pages, knock yourself out.
Exactly. Appendix 1 is the comments, appendix B is the focus group summaries.
Yeah,
That's the whole
Exactly.
thing.
Well, Lynn's really flexible during the day, she said, so.
I will dig through the data and find some quotes.
Great, thank you.
Wait, am I getting
Thank
positive ones or what am I getting exactly?
At least 4 positives.
4 positive.
Ah.
I think we can kind of sum up the negative ones by not if it's gonna raise my taxes, because that was pretty much all I heard.
Yeah, there probably is another reason, but I don't remember seeing no, other than this
I
spot.
think it's once you start reading through them,
Yeah.
you'll see, something will jump out at you.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember, I might, it's like because it's all tied to the response, yes, no, don't, I can't. But I might have left the numbers in there so you can sort them, like here's all the people that said yes, here's all the people that said no, here's all the people that said.
Okay.
But
We can
if
sort
not,
them.
if you don't have it, I keep that with that number that you just sort them all out.
Okay, well, I'll take a look at it. I'll let you know.
Okay, I'll turn it back over to the chair. Chair.
Wonderful, thank you so much,
Thank
Mark,
you.
that was great, appreciate all that, yes.
I have one more question about it.
Sorry,
Sorry, not done yet. Are we right to not reference the first survey in any way?
I just referenced it kind of as Mark kind of did in the background in the initial, so I think that's enough.
Sure, and this, just an announcement that this one, there's a significant difference from the previous one to this one. We'll go.
And the difference was basically we tried to do a better injection of cost
Correct.
structures and get a sense of whether people still want to continue with light of a more accurate cost, right?
I guess my thought is because there are new people on the select board. So who didn't hear the previous presentation. So I like what you're saying. Thank you.
Do we put the other survey back up for reference on?
Only place I put that is on the community center page.
That's
So
what
we
I
don't
was
want to go
thinking.
back and
Yeah.
look for it, but
Yeah.
we don't want to attach it to this.
I think
report.
it still is there. I'm not sure, but I can make sure it is there.
Leslie, may we continue?
Yes, yes, I like that. Thank you. Just as long as we consider it as a thought. Yep.
Thank you. Next steps, what do we
I
got?
think I incorporated that with what we discussed there, is all the next steps of the report itself, and so I kind of transitioned that down to action items.
Okay,
I think that's, I think that,
Combine
yeah, it kind of combined them, so I think you're
So
all
we'll
set
just
to
go to
move on to
action items, yeah.
the reviewing the meetings.
so let's everybody review the minutes real quick. So we can accept them. We'll go with March 25th first, I guess. I've read them and I accept them.
Oh.
I move we accept both of them. I read them too.
I read them and I accept them.
Okay.
She's like my report card.
Well, it's very clear. Great. Okay, motion to accept the minutes from March 25th. Perfect. May 6th. Great job, Allison.
Thank you. Action steps, what I have written down so far is Leslie to follow up with Wiscasset Community Center to see if we can, visit could be scheduled later in June. Mark Lee to see if a tour could be scheduled at the Waterville Community Center. Allison to pull numbers from the focus group demographics and send those over to Mark for his report. Lynn to find some quotes for the report. And then obviously Mark to keep doing what he's doing.
Yeah, we'll move.
Any other next steps that I didn't write down that I forgot?
I think Pam was gonna follow up with,
Yeah, I think you said Leslie, but it was, I was
Yeah.
gonna follow up.
Got it.
Yeah, I did write Leslie, look at that. How about I change that to Pam? Sorry, Leslie. Just giving you other stuff to do.
I wondered. Thank you.
all right, so next step will be an interesting one to talk about the next meeting time in summertime, so.
Want me to just, before you decide that, throw out what a deadline would be to get on this particular select board agenda?
There's an action step.
So there's no select board meeting on July 4th. So, the next select board meeting is July 18th, so the report would have to be done by the 9th to get on that agenda. After that, there's one August 1st, so the report would need to be done by July 23rd for that one. And then August 15th. So the report would need to be done by August 6th to get on that one.
All right, I'm gone the week of July 8th to 12th, so probably better if we didn't try to do the
First one.
right.
I feel like the second one's doable.
Yeah.
Try to aim for presenting on August 1st. When did you say we would need to have the
23rd.
23rd.
Yeah.
Report done on the 23rd. That's doable.
Who's the first
Well,
one?
actually, you're going-
The 8th to the
First.
12th or just that week.
What time is the meeting on the first?
The meeting.
What time is the select board meeting on the first?
Yes.
It would be 6:30. Only bad thing about that night is that's the night the interns are gonna present their projects, so they're already gonna have probably 3 intern projects to listen to.
So then what was the last one?
The 15th.
August 15th, so the report will be done by August 6th.
It might work better for you anyway, because we should have a meeting,
We definitely want to meet to review
Yeah.
the report before
and
that.
then you don't wanna do it right after your vacation anyway.
So August 15th.
Still at 6:30. Report in by
The 6th.
August 6th. Which leads back to Steve's original question. When do we meet again?
I'm on vacation last week of July, first to 3 days of August.
Mark, how much time do you need?
For the report, probably, I mean, I will have it done by probably, well, if I have that week come, well, yeah, can we meet?
22nd.
Yeah, we want to, well, you know, it'd be nice if we met the week of the 15th so that I can then take comments and get it finalized. So that.
So you'll have
on
it
the
done
23rd.
before you go on vacation, is what you're saying, essentially.
Well, I'm thinking July. Right now. I can have the draft to folks by the end of this month easily.
Oh, okay. So we could look for the 15th or the 22nd.
When are you on vacation? You said July 7th?
July 8th through 12th, I'm on vacation, so if we have a meeting on the week, that next week. The week of July 15th,
To both the 15th and the 17th that week are both open for you.
I'm open both those days.
15th, keep our Monday time slot.
Sound good?
Yeah.
It works for me.
Perfect. Wow, that was
Shocking.
Leslie, does this work for you?
July 15th?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Wow.
Are we keeping the same time by 15?
Yes.
It's the earliest I can make it, I think.
Would people prefer it earlier?
No.
No.
But it's a great time.
All right, great, thank you.
That is great.
Okay.
July 20th.
Would we
Perfect.
meet again on the 5th? Let's just see if we can think through the summer a little bit.
Good idea.
Yes.
Mark,
Do we
you
have-
said the meeting was on what?
The 15th, so we would have to have it to Rose on the 6th, right, Mark?
Done.
So meeting on the 5th isn't a bad idea.
Yeah.
just-
Yeah.
Oh, totally, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Okay, so 2 meetings this summer, July 15th and August 5th. Great.
God loves. Great. Please.
And the 15th, August 15th, yeah. For those that want to come, right? It's just open to those that want to come.
Right. Yep.
Who's doing the presentation? Is it Mark or is it one of us?
I think we discussed last time that the members of the committee should really be presenting it, that we can be available for any of this technical information, but I don't know. You still feel that way?
Yes. In August 5th.
you guys listening?
I'm sorry, I'm making sure that I have.
It'll be in the minutes.
Or unless I said.
Steve and Lynn
Very good.
are doing the presentation.
Nice.
We are?
That's what Mark just
That's
said.
what we were talking about with you guys.
But you just volunteered.
That's fine with me.
I just think it's more powerful coming from the committee, not from a consultant. So,
Agreed.
I'll just stand and smile, you talk.
Good.
Okay,
All right,
motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
6:46.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Good to see you.